Zullen we gewoon overgaan naar Engels?
Fine.
We'll switch to English for those people who thought, what a...
And we can say the same thing again. And that's why we fill up the time.
Other languages present? No German, no Finnish. If I'm the first picture was 77, so it was roughly the time of Nighthawks at the Diner, How to Take a Vine, those albums from Tom Waits.
I wasn't the biggest fan. I think you're right.
But not a real fan. So why?
That came later. You know, I liked some of the music, but I didn't have many of his albums then.
Because it wasn't exactly a kind of music that was en vogue in the late 70s, perhaps.
Well, funny enough, in Holland it was very popular. I think relatively very popular. I think there were quite a few American artists that were more popular here than in the home country, like Ry Cooder. But no, it was something that grew, and Tom has an incredible presence, and you know, he's a gift to photographers, I think. So I've been very lucky to have him in front of the camera so often, because I would say the work is more or less done when you have Tom in front of the camera. As a photographer, it's very hard to fail at that point. And one very interesting thing, and I said that to Tom, is that, you know, Tom tried to always look older when he was young, and now he tries to look a little younger. So I thought he could have done this book in a week, because you don't really change that much.
Nor did you, although you're not visually present in the book. But something happened nonetheless, I think, between the two of you, between the moment that you decided to run after him and, well, 35 years later, when you made this book together, because it really is joint venture, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's very rare for Tom to cooperate with somebody doing a book on him. I think it might be a first.
Can you tell us something about that whole process of the bookmaking? We go back to the 35 years of friendship, mutual trust and picture making, but for you, you've done books before. Tom is more aware of making albums, making music, so a book, I presume, is different for him. Can you tell us something about the collaboration and his input, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it took him a while to warm up to the idea that I like to perhaps put all these pictures together as a book. I don't think he's somebody who thinks there should be a photography book on him per se. And I come back to it later, also another reason, but there is, I think, something that grew when I presented some pictures and showed him stuff. Which, by the way, the book took many years to actually put together. It was a slow process, but during that slow process, I think he became more interested to expand on just it being photographs of him, and as you probably can tell from some of these work in progress things, that we were thinking of using some lyrics in the book, maybe making some lyrics into a particular shape, and toyed with the idea of some writing, but I wanted to keep the photographs themselves a bit mysterious, so I didn't really want to give a lot more information out than just the date or the place. And then it developed into Tom maybe doing a few little things himself, and that became in the end 50 pages of the book. And I think that's what makes this book so very special, because I think if you're interested in Tom, it's really great to see where his eyes go to, you know, when you walk somewhere, what does he look at? And you find these answers in the book. And it's also the only bit, apart from the prefaces, it's the only bit where there's some writing in the book. And Tom's writing is interesting to read.
Some of the visual footage that he compiled after picking it up from the ground was for instance, here in this image behind you, things found on the ground. His visual alertness and his own way of reacting upon the world, is it something that is also for you being quite visually a source of inspiration for you?
Well, yeah, I think I didn't have much of a proper education photography-wise, so I kind of self-taught, and I always make everything work where I am, and including using elements that I find. And I think Tom is similar in his approach. When he has something in his hands, he tries to see if I can make it work for something he's doing, including visually, I think, when he finds things. And nature is the best composition anybody could wish for. So I think there's so much great shapes in nature that that's just a natural subject matter.
And by reacting upon things that you just encounter or things that develop during a process, does it mean that most of the sessions, if you can call them, just for easy sake, that there's a lot of coincidence and a lot of spontaneity, or did you have some ideas in advance that you thought, well, this is something that might work with Tom?
Yeah, it's a combination. I think we're both actually quite playful. It's hard to imagine, but I can be. And sometimes we have some idea of where we're heading to. If you arrive with a violin and a chair, then I guess you're going to use it. So
it just might say no.
Yeah, but I didn't. I mean, he brought the violin, so he's the one. I think there was also days that we stuck, and we used to do a photograph, a portrait, more portrait-like, and other days we just find something. But there's no rule, and some days we're more inspired than others, but we always make it work. And depending on how bad Tom's driving is that day, where we get to. So he always drives, I never drive.
You sit next to him.
I sit next to him.
Curious where this drive will lead.
And pray we arrive safe. Yeah.
So is it safe to say that it's also something like a safe haven for the two of you, enabling you to be kids and fooling around and reacting on each other without expectations or outside pressure?
I think so. I think it's in a way how photography should be. I think you're the person who's photographing, and there's nothing in the way of that. There's no other person present, and that happens a lot, of course, in the music industry. That there's somebody who has an agenda and wants to get a certain result out of this meeting, or he wants the person to look a certain way. But we have none of that. So it's very pure. It's just what we think is interesting and might work for us, and it's great. It shows a great maturity from Tom's side. The only other person I've had that with in America is Springsteen. Nobody else has.
You just mentioned it's hard to fail with a person and a face like Tom Waits. Does it mean it's easier for you? I mean, besides just the trust, it's a piece of cake.
No,
so is it your best work?
I'm not trying to make it lighter than it is. I'm still working really hard. But Tom, there's so much to read in Tom, in his face. So that's why I'm saying that you can't fail. That there's so much that you have in front of your camera that tells a story, and whether it's just purely the face or whether it's a body position. There's always a story going on, and I think as a photographer, you're very lucky to have that in front of your camera. Obviously, I like to think that the pictures I take from are different than somebody else's.
We have to look at somebody somebody else's
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
But we won't tonight, not today, not today. There's always a story involved. That might be true, I think, for a large part of the images. The ones you did together quite spontaneous, but there are also the pictures that shows Tom Waits, the musician, while he's on stage or just off stage. There are not that many pictures of that Tom Waits.
No, because it's not a music book at all. It's a book of portraiture, and so I think there's twice a picture of a concert in there, because it's part of Tom's life. But it's if you're looking for concert pictures, then this is not the book to buy.
No, if you want portraits from a single person, this is a better option.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the people who want to buy live pictures, they go to the right. And that may be a better idea of the audience here.
We compiled this mood board with just a very limited amount of pictures that was part of the whole process that took years. What we see also is some color photographs. More on that side. You can have a look later on. There are not that many, but a few nonetheless. Why the color pictures?
Wow, that's good. I thought you were going to say why not more.
That was my second question.
Okay. It's just sometimes, I'm more progressive than I give myself credit for, and I bring a color film. Well, to be honest, sometimes I think some of the pictures get used for press, and they might use something color. But sometimes I also think the situation asks for a color photograph. But my natural choice is always black and white, and I think it's very fitting with them. But there's also something very, very, very colorful about them. So there's a few pictures that bring that out. And, of course, Tom himself photographs only color, so that's also a nice balance in the book.
For instance, these pictures, these are composed in a way by him. But there are also quite a few pictures he saw something, he took a picture, like sunsets, and then not one, but just
many. Many moons and many sunsets.
Part of the book also is his writing. We already mentioned his writing is typical